Welcome to Exploring the Ozarks, where we tell the history and stories of locations, places, and people that make up the area. Here's Matt. I was a little late that time.
That's all right. No, you did good. Timing's always good.
We're going to say that the crowd was eager to cheer you.
That's right, and we appreciate that too, everybody. Can you turn me up just a tad?
No.
Okay, cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Graham. I am with Central Bank of the Ozarks, but I daylight. Oh, there we go. Now it sounds better. As a podcast extraordinaire with my producer and co-host here, Mr. David Carr.
I'm not laughing at what you just called yourself extraordinary.
I know. It just came out. That's called the law of attraction.
That's
David.
the showmanship.
Yeah.
That's showmanship. That's all it is. We need to get you a top hat like Barnum and Bailey.
That's it. And then
podcast extraordinaire.
Yes, and it even says it on the hat. But today you are listening to Exploring the Ozarks, and we are here at Springfield Studio One, where if you want to film your own podcast, if you want to put on your own play, if you want to bring a music group in to play on the stage,
have a class, have a seminar.
People have thrown parties in here and everything else.
Live stream it.
David's done a lot of work. The podcast room you're seeing right now is phenomenal. Everything else that he's built in the last few months is phenomenal as well. Come by, see it, check it out, see what you can use the space for if you want to do anything entertainment-wise. Film a movie, do whatever, sitcom, whatever.
Yeah, all those things.
We'll breeze right through the intro because today we've got what I consider a good friend, Mr. George Fuller with Ruck N Run on the phone, and we appreciate you being here, George.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. This has been the one I've been really looking forward to since you came to my networking group a while back and talked about Ruck N Run. But everywhere you go, you kind of exude this excitement for what you're talking about. And he's probably one of the smartest people I know. I'll give you some tips here in a little bit of why I feel that way. But real quick, before we get into the rest of it, David, hit him with some Patreon talk.
Patreon. We have Patreon members. Patreon's cool, though. If you're not a business and don't have a lot of money to throw into sponsoring, you can do individual sponsors called through Patreon. $5, $10, $25 tiers. You get access to unique content through Patreon, things we don't share necessarily in a group or on our other social media channels. And, it's just a great way to support us and help us keep exploring the Ozarks.
Yeah, get connected with us, really. A lot of the back-end stuff that you guys don't see is pretty fun, but you'll find out on Patreon if you do end up doing that.
Yeah.
But, well, let's get right into it because, George, like I said earlier, probably one of the smartest people I know as far as just business brains, but you're in the military. So, as far as that, thank you so much for your service. You've been in a long time, man, so thank you for doing what you do.
It's definitely an honor. I appreciate your support.
Absolutely. Anytime, man. Anytime I've got a platform, I'm like, George Fuller's got to be involved. So, because you do bring excitement. But, one of the coolest things about, I've known George a long time when he was in some civilian type of thing that he was doing a while back and networking. And he's not one of the only people. He's the only person I've ever been able to watch go around the room full of 20, 25, 30 people, and by the end of it, he will stand up and recite every single one of their names throughout the process.
Wow.
I'm not going to tell you how he does it because last time he told me his little trick that he's got, but even with that trick, not a chance in hell I could do it. Or anybody could do it.
I was talking yesterday to somebody about how I forget names like 5 seconds after they tell it to me. So, that's impressive.
That's what I told George, actually. I was like, dude, I would butcher everybody's name or mix them up. So my hat's off to you. That's just one thing he does that's really cool. Another thing that George does that's really cool besides the more I think about it, I'm like, man, George is a cool dude.
Let's talk about some cool stuff before we get into the main event.
You're here to talk today about Ruck N Run. Tell us about Ruck N Run as far as, what we like to do with this, platform that we have. We like to talk about the events, the nonprofits. We'd like to talk about all that, but we also like to know who the person is that started it, why they started it, so where they came from, that type of thing. So, George, first of all, tell us what Ruck N Run is and who it benefits, because it is a nonprofit.
Yeah, so I'm sure that you guys have heard of the book Start With Why. So here's the why.
Yeah.
I have to have some type of interaction with my fellow service members. And I also got sick and tired of the over-commercialization of Veterans Day. Mm-hmm. I also wanted to provide a way that the community can get together. And I also wanted to combine that with the camaraderie that you get from finishing an event. You cross the finish line and it's like, wow, I've done something achievable that I haven't done before. Or I've graduated basic training, or I've done something as a group, that common ground. And so all that culminated into this idea, which started 2013, 14, somewhere around there. I was in 2014 became a senior drill sergeant in the Army, and I wanted to get a group of us together just to ruck around, which means to walk with a backpack, weighted vest, whatever. And so to ruck is a verb, and to wear a ruck, the ruck is a backpack. So we wanted to do that little ruck around Wilson's Creek, and I wanted to involve everybody. So I was like, well, I want to call it a ruck, but I also don't want to leave out the runners.
Right.
And let's call it Ruck N Run for veterans. And then what automatically happened was, can civilians do it too? So I dropped the 4 veterans because I didn't want people to think it was exclusive for just veterans.
Well,
so,
yeah, because everybody wants to run a 5K. There's so many people.
Not everybody.
I was going to say,
right. I don't.
I've actually I do turkey trot with my daughter every year.
But you can trot.
Which is kind of fun.
You can walk. You can trot.
That's the nice thing about those races is that a lot of those people are like, it's just fun.
Yeah, no, that's what they do for fun.
Yeah, and I agree with you to a certain extent. I think instead of everybody can, I think it should be everybody should strive to at least complete a 5K. Statistically, like just the other day, I came across this, and it says 95% of men and women age 30 and above will choose to never sprint for the rest of their lives.
Dude,
I could see that.
That's me, right? So in college,
so we want people to be the 5%, of course, but we also, we recognize an organization, but myself as well. I want people to push themselves to do something that that 5K may be unachievable in their minds, but they can do it. We've seen, there's pictures all over the internet of, from our event. There's moms that come out that have their baby on their back.
Wow.
So there's people pushing strollers.
I was always impressed by that.
So.
That's awesome.
Like whenever I've run 5Ks in the past, just seeing like a parent pushing a stroller, like a 3-wheeled stroller with the baby in the front of him, and beating me, by the way.
That's why they do it.
This was a race where I'd actually like trained for it. And I was like, I think I got like 30 minutes or something on it, which was pretty good.
That's not bad. Yeah.
But it was like, they're just breezing past me with strollers.
But those people are just another level altogether. So you outlet.
They're just laughing and running really fast. It's like, guys.
And here's, last week I'm with the Lost and Found Grief Center here in Springfield. We have what's called the Run and Remember, which is a 5K for people that want to remember loved ones that they've lost in the past. So we have a lot of people that sign up that are just 5Kers, which I think what they call the marathon people or something. That's not even close. What's really cool is one of my good friends, Angela Gaddis, and her husband, Justin, have a 9-year-old son that competes at very high levels for running. You're talking usually any 16 under event, he's winning it. Mm-hmm. He's beating people this kid, so she calls me, she calls me at like 17 minutes into the race, and she's like, hey, have they made it there yet? And I'm like, no, but I'm about the last half mile or so that would be pretty fast. She's like, well, they're probably going to be there here any second. Yeah. I was like, there's no way, because there's nobody coming. And I look down the way, and I see this little head bobbing up and down, his little shoes running, and I'm like, I think I see Colton right now.
Yep.
And this kid is literally in the top 7 at the time of these guys that are hardcore 5Kers, and this kid's 9 years old, and he's out there beating the crap out of other people, man. And
I'm impressed. We should get him to the Ruck N Run then.
No, he will be, I'm sure, and he'll probably wear a weighted vest. And
do you have different categories, George, or is it just all one big race?
Yeah, absolutely. We have different ones. The biggest thing is, so let me answer that by also covering some confusion. I know I had mentioned the Ruck N Run for veterans.
We like confusion.
Yeah, well, let me clear it up. So the 4 veterans was dropped because of we didn't want people to think it's exclusive to veterans. So it's open to the whole community. But people think that they need to ruck and run. That's just simply not the case. So you're going to choose to ruck or run, but that's not as catchy. Like, come to our Ruck or Run event. It's Ruck and Run, like Guns N' Roses, So, and it also, with that and in the middle, which is apostrophized, that means that it connects the runners and the ruckers together. And our event and our nonprofit, our pillars are honoring those who serve, building camaraderie, and connecting the community. So if people out there are hearing this and they're like, I don't know if I could run that far with a weighted backpack. No, you either ruck, which is walk with a weighted backpack or a vest or something like that, and the weight is up to you, or you run without a rucksack.
I mean, you've sold me now.
Well,
I mean, because before I was like, if I have to carry a pack and run, man, no.
Well,
But if I just have to carry a pack, I can walk with that.
I'm itching here because I know what George is going to say. It's not just running or rucking either.
Yeah.
Let's explore what happens on the trail. So walk us through. Let's walk us through what happens on the trail. Then we'll go backwards a little bit on some other things. So tell us what happens after the start gun.
Yeah. Well, I do like podcasts that give me softball pitches. So let me hit this now.
Because it's not just rucking or running. Remember that as we go into this.
So here, listen here. So as a senior drill sergeant, I wanted to give the community a small taste.
Yeah.
Of what basic training is all about. So drill sergeant unit comes out, and they are positioned at each station.
Oh no!
Like literal drill sergeants.
Oh no!
Yes. So it was my previous unit when I was in Springfield. So they come out. We get drill sergeants from Fort Leonard Wood, and so anyway, so their stations along the route. So back in the day, 2015, and I have a video of this, and kind of like a selfie video, if you want to call it that. And I'm doing my own ruck. And I said, I'm creating this event called Ruck N Run for veterans, and it became Ruck N Run. And I want to do a 5K, and I was like, no, wait, we're going to call it a 5.56K because 5.56 millimeter is a NATO round in the military. So, so it's a little bit better than a 5K, bigger. And then the stations along the route are, you got push-ups, jumping jacks.
Oh, no.
Mountain climbers, bodyweight squats, and burpees for the last.
And that you saved the best for last. Okay.
Yes, and so there's some intricacies there when you ask me about the categories and stuff. So you got rucker or runner, you've got solo or team, and you've got participant or competitor. And I'll break it down real fast. So let's say that Matt, he's going to come out as a rucker, 5.56K. That's the distance. So we know his mode of transportation, right? We know his distance. And we know he's going to do 5 stations because that's what's prescribed. And now if he's solo, he can do that. And if he comes in really fast and doing the prescribed stations and repetitions, then he can achieve a competitor's medal, like first, second, third.
Oh, wow.
Or he can do as a participant and just have fun with it.
Right.
The same thing with a solo or team. So you and 3 other people, because it's a minimum of 4, you're going to do your team as a participant team. That means you're just having fun. All of you can finish together, or you're going to do the fastest 4 scores. So you're just going to go out there and you're all on the same team. You're just not finishing together. And that's the team competitor. And I'm probably sure that I've lost most listeners at this point. So let me rein it back in. So you can do it as a runner or rucker, 5.56K, 7.62K, or 1111K.
Wow.
The 1111 is talking about or reinforces the date, which is Veterans Day, 11/11.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're not honoring what Veterans Day is, like people are like, what day is it? It's always 11/11. So we did a distance, 11/11. It's the 5.56K twice. Don't do the math; it'll never work. So then, and then you're going to choose solo or team, or you're going to do participant or competitor. So let's talk about the competitor for a second, and then I'll give myself a pause. So with the competitor, you are required to have a minimum of 45 pounds as a competitor only.
Wow.
If you're male, female's 35 pounds. You must complete 25 reps at each station. As a participant, you're having fun. We don't care what kind of reps you do. You can make them look ugly. We don't care. Do 0, do 50. Who cares? But you're just coming out to have fun, just a small taste. But if you want to be on stage with a first, second, third placement medal, you have to do the prescribed weight and the prescribed repetitions. And of course, if you're a runner, you're not carrying that weight, so you're just doing the prescribed repetition.
Right, which is a totally different spin on any 5K or let's just call it a marathon at this point.
Yeah.
You don't hear of any other. Usually, it's just you go out, you line up, you run, you get the best time, you're on the podium, whatever. You're not. You just participate.
Yeah,
right.
I'm
glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because that's what sets you up for success, really. Because you don't just go out there and run a 5K. There's so many other aspects to it. Before the race, after the race, it's a camaraderie feeling, and to me, one of the coolest parts about it is that you do it at Wilson's Creek Battlefield, which is, to me, is that where you still do that, by the way?
No, we were going to do it at Wilson's Creek, but we decided to move it at the church property. So It worked out really well. And it's not a big deal, but we do it at Meadowview Baptist Church.
Well, you probably have a bigger landing area for everybody, too, because Wilson's Creek's a little bit tight in parking and things like that.
It just didn't work out logistically for Wilson's Creek ever. So as far as the beginning, so I was a member at Meadowview Baptist Church in Republic. So I asked the pastor, because they have an asphalt, like it's Meadowview Lane just ends at the church property. So it's just asphalt to grass, right?
Right.
So you got to be careful saying that really quick. So then that's our start and stop. So you take off down the street, and right to the west of that is just our base camp. And we have this huge fire pit. And that's where our stage is. We got a military truck as our stage, and we drive that around.
Big military truck that George drives around actually for promotion.
I do, yep. So then it's an out and back route, so you're going to see people, and I love it because last year, finally, for the first time ever, believe it or not, since I'm the race director, I wasn't really able to leave, but last year I was able to go out on the route, and I'm talking like high-fiving all the way down, and let's go, you got this, let's do it, and getting beside people doing repetitions and getting yelled at by drill sergeants and give them the evil eye. And
well, it's good to stay motivated because at the 5K I did last week, we have to have cheerleaders along the way. Number one, it's in Springfield downtown, so you got to make sure everybody's safe as they're doing it.
Right.
But as I'm like the last half mile, people are gassed at that point. And I picked that spot because no one else would. It was down by the train tracks, homeless camp and that kind of thing. So there was really nobody that went down there. And I was like, well, looks like somebody's needed here, so I'll be here. Yeah. And what's really cool is that, at the end of it, some of the local, I believe it's the Army unit, came down and hung out with me because I was the only one by myself. And they were like, yeah, you're in a little bit of a rough spot. And I'm like, yeah, it's not the best spot to choose, but I'm here. And I wanted to
someone needs to be here.
But I want to make sure our runners were safe too. And, what's really cool is they were thanking me for being there whenever they're running by, just cheering them on. We have cheerleaders along the route, but they were thanking us because by the time you get close to the end of a 5K, you're done. These people were done, and they still had an uphill run. So just as a little bit of a comedy aspect of it.
Uphill?
Yeah, it was literally you go down the road a little bit, and you've got to run back uphill toward the Cardinal Stadium.
That's the worst way to end a race.
So I was, so I comedically, if they were doing well, I'm like, well, just look out for that big hill you got to get up at the very end here to try to psych them out a little bit. And they all got a good kick out of it. But because what you do, George, is, you do some great promotion for this too, and it's blown up on you a little bit over the years. COVID probably didn't help you at all, but I know last year was a pretty good size event. You do it in a time that it could be warmer, or it could
what
be
is
really
the typical
cold.
Size?
So how many people do you have showing up for this thing? Because it's 11/11. Remember that it's November, so it could be a little bit rough.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and so a couple things. Veterans Day is always 11/11, and then this year it happens to fall on Saturday.
Perfect.
So because 11/11 is not always on Saturday, it's always on Veterans Day weekend. We have to compete with the state of Missouri's, what's it called? Well, hunting season, of course.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. And so I jokingly say this because I'm a deer hunter too. I'm like, if you're any good, you probably have it done before our event starts. So just come out in your camo. You'll be good.
Yeah, you'll fit right in.
Yeah.
Love it.
And it's also, so we have a packet pickup on Thursday, a packet pickup on Friday. The Friday includes camping if you want to, because we'll have the fire pit going. Just to build that camaraderie. We have a hardcore medal this year that's brand new. If you wanted to do all 12 or all 11 of the Ruck N Run series, which is a monthly event, and then it culminates in the annual event, then you'll get a special medal and recognition on the stage.
So what's this other portion of this as far as the hardcore part? Let's talk about what does it entail as far as monthly obligation for that?
All right, so I always take the year and move a decimal point over, so it's $20.23. And we have a nonprofit organization, and I should be clear on two things. This probably should have been at the front of the
That's all right.
conversation, but one of them is, yes, I am active duty military, and but that does not mean I do any of this while in uniform, because I could get in trouble.
No, you do this on your own time, and you're very specific about that. He takes leave to do this.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, for the last 8 years.
Yeah. Not vacation.
Yeah. I go on leave to work. Yes.
Right.
So I do that outside of uniform. And then the second part was that I don't get paid a dime. So from this day backwards, I've not gotten paid through Ruck N Run.
Which
as
is,
a nonprofit
to me, that's
organization.
hugely important, though, because an executive director never is not getting paid, right, of a nonprofit. So what nonprofits do you support throughout this?
Ruck N Run specifically?
Yes. What do you do with your money? Let's talk about that real quick, and we'll go back to what the monthly obligation is. I'm more involved in this part now.
I'm glad you asked. So I call this thing by the numbers. So I've already had this queued up. I'm glad you asked. So as of our 8th annual event, which is last year, our numbers of registration was 262. That was people that came in, actually picked up a packet. We had about 400 people on the ground, on grounds. I mean, not on the ground.
Wow.
I mean, probably after their birthdays, they were on the ground.
Right. Yeah.
At that time, we collected 1,512 pounds of food.
Wow.
In all, between 2015 and 22, we've collected just about 11,000 pounds of food.
Wow.
And through the 8th annual event alone, we raised $3,488, and that goes into an earmarked fund called Honoring Those Who Served. So within our organization, we have Honoring Those Who Served, which helps out veterans and actively serving military. Then we have another fund called In Their Honor, which is, this is May, so this is the month of the Memorial May. So the month of Memorial Day is the last Monday in May, and so with that one, we have In Their Honor, and when we do that one, that specific fund is for the families of the fallen. And our third thing we have is called Military Kids. It's a scholarship called Hannah's Heroes. Huge story behind that. One of our members and Ruck N Runners, the dad was deployed. The daughter passed away of type 1 juvenile diabetes. Gosh. And she died in April, which coincidentally is the month of the military child.
Oh.
And so there's a ribbon, because there's kind of ribbons for different things. So there's a ribbon for type 1 juvenile diabetes, and it's like a turquoise blue. And there's a ribbon for the month of military child, which is April, and it's purple. And I kid you not, those were her 2 favorite colors.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I combine those 2 colors. I do all my artwork, and I combine those 2 colors, made a shirt, made a coin, and 100% of the proceeds from shirts and coins goes towards Hannah's Heroes Military Kids Scholarship Fund.
Wow. So
we raised a total of $5,805. We've given out $5,000 of that.
Wow, man.
It's $1,000 scholarships, and it's presented at our annual event, and it goes to local 417 seniors that are military kids, and they have to submit an essay and be selected to be the recipient.
Okay. So
Nice.
Do you have to go to schools and let them know that that's available? How do kids find out about this?
So our team does that. I do it on social media. Your listeners are going to be able to go to rucknrun.org, rucknrun.org/scholarship. Okay. And anyone that's local that is a military kid, whether it's a veteran or currently serving, I don't care what branch it is, our team looks at your essay, and it's basically answers the question, tell us about your being a military kid, and then also tell us about your impact in the veteran community.
Man,
those
that's
2 things.
awesome.
So we have we've given to Camp Hope in the first 2 years. That's a nonprofit organization. Mm-hmm. And then the next 2 years we gave to Combat Boots and the High Heels. And so that's 4 years, right? So 15, 16, 17, and 18, we gave to other nonprofits. In fiscal year 2018, but officially our fiscal year started 2019, January 1. It only took 7 days, but our nonprofit status was approved by the IRS in 7 days.
Wow.
So
in
I
7
called
days,
them.
that's impressive.
Yeah.
No, I'm not kidding. I called and I said,
Never
hey, just by
happens.
chance.
No.
And she's like, yeah, if it hasn't been 6 months, I wouldn't even bother. I'm like, can you just check? And she came back on the phone, the agent, the IRS. She's like, I've never seen this. You got approved in 7 days. So our official start date of our nonprofit was 2019. So we just started earmarking funds to honoring those who served in their honor and military kids.
And then what do you guys do with the food that you compile throughout these events?
Great question. So what we do is we encourage people to put the canned goods in their rucksack so it provides the weight for their backs, backpacks, and then afterwards offload it right there on the scene, and then it goes straight to Home at Last, which is a program of the kitchen.
Okay.
And so I just got a letter from them today. I just want to share this with you.
Please do, man. I love this part because this is what your whole reason behind doing this is. You're affecting so many different types of people throughout this whole process, George. That's why I love what you're doing, because most nonprofits, that money goes straight to the company and they divvy it out with, salaries and, staff and things like that, and making sure people don't have to pay for services like mental health. But you're doing this in so many different prongs. It's almost like you have a tree around you that you have so many different things that are involved in this. Reading this letter, man, hit us with it, because I think this is like the epitome of why you're doing it.
Well, I do want to read it, and I just want to give a disclaimer. Like Ruck N Run at this point, I would love to be brought on as a full-time employee of Ruck N Run. And there's a lot of nonprofits that do that. They have that budget. Ruck N Run just doesn't have that budget. So right now, 100% is going to help, or if we have to fix Gomez, our military truck, or whatever, So it's not like anyone's getting rich from Ruck N Run. I just want to be honest with you guys. I haven't received an income, but that doesn't mean that's not going to change.
Well,
because if we get to, there's a point where we have
it's a full-time job.
It is.
Yeah, it is a full-time job.
Once you start actually doing everything you need to do with a nonprofit, it's a full-time job.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And my own personal convictions, which I take from the Bible, is that a person that does the work is worthy of pay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I won't ever get paid, but I will tell you that right now it's just not feasible. So here's this letter.
Yes, let's go. Well, the thing is that you're doing this all with love. That's why you're doing this. Now, you do have a full-time job, more than full-time job. You're in the military and you've been doing it a long time. I'm hoping that once you can get to the point where you're able to retire, now that you can focus more on this, then you can promote more, you can fundraise more, do more fundraisers. Then it really opens up an opportunity for you to have to be able to fulfill your dream of actually being able to make a little bit of a living from this. But you've been doing it so long by giving back to everybody that you're due that at the end of this all. This is, to me, you deserve to get paid after all it's said and done.
Yeah.
But
and it's a scary proposition, because as nonprofit organizations, and I would encourage any listeners to do this, even for Ruck N Run, our tax documents, as far as what's disclosed to the IRS and any other nonprofits out there, they have to disclose what they make and where the money's going.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't be, I got to be above reproach in this. I can't just say, oh no, I do it for free. And then if you looked at a document that says I got paid something, that's why I'm saying at this point, on this day, that doesn't mean it won't change. But in the past, I've not gotten paid.
Well, let's hope it does. Let's hope it does change, George. You deserve some pay.
Let's have this be a 10,000 person event, and you're doing this full time.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about this. Go for it, dude.
I will tell you also that you mentioned leave earlier, so I do want to say this, and I don't need sympathy from anybody, but let me tell you, you're talking about the sacrifice. So in 2015, I started it. 2016, I accepted a job in D.C. I was the combat liaison for everyone that was wounded in battlefield. So they would fly to Launchville, and then from Launchville, they go to Andrews Air Force Base, and I'm talking like blown off legs, shrapnel face, gunshot wounds. I made sure they got to Walter Reed and wherever they needed to go. And that is something I did for 4 years in D.C. We lived in D.C., and it was an active duty position.
Wow.
Okay. So then while I did that, I was able to, outside uniform, continue to build Ruck N Run, but I was gone in 2016. I started in 15, man. So think about that. I've been gone since 2016. Here we are, 2023. I've been gone 7 years.
Right.
And by God's grace, Ruck N Run has lasted this long. So,
and it's getting bigger every year is the key to that.
It is.
Right. Yeah.
And, I think one thing is it gets bigger because people understand you don't have to ruck and run at the same time.
Right. Well, and it takes a long time to get something. Well, you've got so many different parts to this that it does take a while for people to wrap their mind around the entire event. But to me, it just seems like it gets bigger and bigger. So
do you ever consider partnering with like Ozarks Food Harvest or some of these other places, since it is November? It's obviously focused on veterans, but you're also gathering food and other things.
And you said Home at Last is the kitchen, though, correct?
The kitchen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So at least
I'm open to any of it. I'm open to any of it. And I'll tell you, like, if you, like, let's say that there's people listening here on your podcast and they're like, I was supposed to go to the event last year, but I decided not to, like I had the sickness or whatever.
Right.
You missed a great time, A, but B, it was the coldest on record that Ruck N Run's ever been. I'm telling you what. So,
and people camp at this thing too. They camp so they can do this because it does start pretty early in the morning. So you might as well just camp, wake up, have the camaraderie of people going. You got the fire pit, which is a huge fire pit going.
That's one thing I enjoyed. I did paintball for a long time.
Yeah,
I need to pick it up again. Honestly, it's a lot of fun.
We did. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I did a D-Day reenactment out in Oklahoma. They had this big old huge thing out there. But one of the funnest parts is that it's like a week-long event. I was only there for the weekend, but you'd camp out with your team. And then you go out and do paintball all day long. Then you come back and do more stuff at the bar in the campfire. Wow. It was a great experience.
Did they have like paintball bombs going off and the hand grenades and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, actually. No, and actually my most vivid memory of that thing was as I was leaving, I got out for the last time. It was near the end.
Yeah.
Everybody was at this last battlefield. There's like probably 1,000 people just sitting there paintballing each other. But they had thrown smoke bombs.
Oh,
so there's this green and pink and all these different smoke just going everywhere.
And you don't see
people
anything.
Are shooting each other. You can't see anything. It's just... It was just really impressive visual, but
I want to go do that now. Actually, I think that's cool. That's great. Now to get back to what we were doing now,
it's technically in the Ozarks.
This is technically, I guess it would be. It's right there in that corner, isn't it?
It's right near. It's like a half hour outside of Missouri.
And you know what? My birthday is actually on D-Day, so this would be fun, right?
There you go.
I don't want to go get shot up on my birthday, but I'm pretty good at paintball. So George, on going back to this letter, I'm going to try to hold it all together here, but I think this letter is going to kind of tie into why you do what you do. So hit us with who it's from, and then go ahead and tell us about this letter.
This is from the Director of Development at Home at Last, The Kitchen. Okay. And he is the Director of Development from The Kitchen, but he covers Home at Last, which is one of their programs. So it says, I had the opportunity to meet George Fuller 2022, and that's when he took over the position while I was planning the Ruck N Run. So it honors those who serve, builds camaraderie, and connects the community. And he also says that the past 7 years, Ruck N Run has partnered with Home at Last, program with The Kitchen, by providing non-perishable food to our participants and their families. Home at Last is a housing first program that provides case management, housing assistance, and wraparound services for veterans and their families who are homeless or at risk of being homeless.
Wow.
2022, The Kitchen housed 166 veterans in our community.
Gosh.
Since partnering with Mr. Fuller, we have received over 10,000 pounds of non-perishable items through Ruck N Run for veterans and their families. It's hard to describe how much their support means to our community. This has been such a huge blessing to those who serve every day. Thank you, Mr. Fuller and his team, for all they do and all the help that they give to our community. And I would go on to add to that. I was told that the food that we provide at Ruck N Run, when we collect it, is enough to help these veterans and their families for 6 months.
Man.
Wow.
That's the epitome,
That's
though.
a big impact.
That's huge, man. And 6 months, I mean, I've worked on nonprofits that were like the Diaper Bank of the Ozarks, and I joined it because I walked outside. We had our meeting at Cross Lines, and I walked outside, and there's a certain day that people would come get diapers and non-perishable food items. And I saw people, changing their kids in the back of their trucks, or out in the grass, because that was the first time they changed their kid all day, possibly in the last 24 to 48 hours, right? And that's when I sat down in my car and I started crying, because I'm like, dude, I've got small kids in diapers, and I couldn't imagine not being able to go get those or having to spend more money on those diapers because I had to get them from a gas station because I couldn't go anywhere else. What you're doing is giving those people so much hope, because now they don't have to focus on getting that food. Now they can go focus on something that they're good at, or focus on getting money that they can, continue doing what they're doing. But you just providing that little bit of food is the biggest hope that you can give somebody in one shot, for them to be able to go out and do better for themselves. And sometimes that little boost reminds them also of what humanity's capable of.
Yeah.
And so thank you for doing that part out. I'm sure that probably was part of why you did what you did. So when you have this nonprofit that you've got, that's got so many fingers to it, how long did it take you before 2015 to go, I want this, and this to happen? So, I mean, was it all just happening, or did you have to kind of put it all together? I mean, how did this work?
I think the entrepreneurial spirit of people that are listening would understand constructing the airplane while you're falling through the sky.
That's kind of what it feels like.
Right. So, I mean, it is what it is. But I remember being on the trail, and that's what we called drill sergeant duty. So I was on the trail then at Fort Sill. And I'm like, man, if I don't do it this year, it's never going to happen. I came back and knocked out most of the stuff in 30 days, and we had 160 people show up the first year.
Wow.
So
impressive.
Yeah, and I'm talking like I would show up to people's places with a poster. I'm like, hey, I'm here with Ruck N Run. And like, did you just cuss at me? Like, no, let me explain. Let me explain what that word means.
Ruck.
Ruck, yep, with a Romeo.
Right.
So yeah, so now I would go into the same person. They're like, hey, what's going on? We saw your thing on TV, and how was your turnout? Yeah, let me get a poster. And so there is people that still has to. It's like most people know what a podcast is by now. But
right.
I think the rucking community has really improved. You've got companies like Go Ruck. They have phenomenal rucksacks. And
I have to wonder too, with COVID.
Oh man.
One thing that people did is they went outdoors. Like they started hiking a lot more. I wonder how much that has affected.
How did that affect you?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't affect ours statistically.
Good.
In a sense that we didn't have a dip in registrations.
Awesome.
And since I think year 2 or year 1, I think in year 2, we supplied net gaiters, and most people didn't even know what a net gaiter was the first couple of years. And then COVID came around, everybody's wearing them over their face.
I love mine.
So, yeah. So we had those. So it didn't really affect us. And you're right. I mean, people want to get out, and I think it's like a good closeout of the year. It is going to get colder, and
most 5Ks end in November.
It's nice having those clavas, though. I call it a clava, whatever you just call it, net gator. I call them multi-clavas because I've got tons of them because I do hike a lot. And when it's cold, oh my gosh, man, it's the best thing you'll ever have. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just one layer, but it keeps you from your lungs freezing.
Yeah, really. Yeah, something small like that.
Something small.
Yeah, just something small.
I tell you, it makes a big difference. But
from year 1, I decided, because you were asking about how it's built up and the fingers, how it reaches out. So I just had a sense of this is what I want, and it has to exude professionalism because it's talking about and honoring our veterans and
absolutely.
Military. So one of the harshest critics that a veteran-owned business can have is probably another veteran.
I can only imagine, dude.
Yeah. So one of my pet peeves is seeing the flag at the wrong orientation. From the viewer, the union or the blue and stars need to go upper left to the viewer. So that means its own right. And oftentimes you have it like they just have it like they would on a wall, but then they flip it 90 degrees.
Right.
And the orientation is wrong. Like, it drives me nuts. And then when I see it on tattoos, I'm like, well, you just
botched that one.
There,
you made yourself look like an idiot. Yeah, my uncle was that way.
Yeah, so with that, I wanted to make sure our event was something that would be memorable. And I know also, and you can relate, and others, when you go to events, I just didn't want another 100% cotton shirt that's going to shrink into a square.
Right.
So I have we use a brand from the very beginning that is high quality. In fact, I got shirts from this specific brand since 2011. I knew it was going to be good.
Wow.
So I still have those. In 2015, we started with that brand. It's a specific style. It looks like it's stenciled because it's military. And then we have 4 sides, so it's not just a cheap shirt. And people love them.
Yeah.
And they can't get enough of them. In fact, here's a little plug, but if you show up to Ruck N Run and this is your very first year, you're required to wear that first year shirt.
Okay.
Smart.
If last year was your first year, whatever year you showed up was your first year, you wear that. And so it's really neat to see like all these colors, and you can tell, that was your first year.
That's really cool.
Dude, you thought of everything though, George. I mean, like, okay, so let's before, I mean, this is flying by. We've probably got 5-10 minutes, but so to put it in perspective, this is like one of the more professional events that I've seen. And this is basically one dude and a few people that put this on. But, as far as the posters that you come up with, the shirts that you come up with, the event itself, everybody gets things as they show up, right? So they show up Thursday to get the package that they need, much like your
swag.
Sado people, your swag. Tell us more about what's in the swag bag, because we need one of those bags. We want to put some stuff on the wall here.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, let me back up for a second because I can't take credit for everything.
I know.
I am the crazy guy with weird ideas.
Yeah, you're the quarterback.
However, we got all kinds of people that bring their own flavor of ideas and their own organization. So without our board of directors and our volunteers, I mean, this could not happen.
Absolutely.
And Meadowview Baptist Church provides a lot of the volunteers. That Wednesday night, we do packet building.
Wow.
And so we show up, and instead of doing their Wednesday night service, we have tables lined up, and everybody's going through like trick or treating. And when you get your shirt, just to expound on the professionalism that I want to exude from the event, when you get your shirt, it's going to be already rolled. It's going to have a wristband around it. It's going to be rolled in such a way that you can automatically see the size on it. So that way you're not combing through boxes and trying to find your shirt. I already know what shirt size you have. I'm going to verify that. Your name, the bib's in the bag. See you later. I'll see you in the morning. In and out.
That's like how precise this guy is, though.
It's military precision.
No one thinks of it. That's what I was going to say. This guy bleeds the military, right? And it goes into everything that he does. That's
it goes back to that, the veterans are going to be the most, on top of whether there's a mistake or not. So it sounds like George is definitely covering his bases right here and make sure that
can't go anywhere with George.
We're hitting this high level of precision, perfection with this event.
Professionalism.
Yeah, it could be perfectionism in the sense that maybe I have the fear of man, like I don't want someone to come after me, but at the same time, I also love what I do. I mean, it's oftentimes if you saw me here, I got my headphones on, I'm listening to music, and I'm sitting there like zooming in 6,400% into Adobe Illustrator to make sure that lines are lined up on the artwork. 6,400%.
I can relate to that.
Yeah,
and I've got like 27-inch monitors, and maybe because I'm old, I got to zoom in, but whatever.
I can also relate to that.
I'm going to say precision.
Yeah, it's precision.
So I had, thank you. So I had gone back and said thanks to the team, but you had a specific question that has slipped my mind.
Gosh, what was it? It was the swag.
Swag.
Yes.
Got it.
So they go through like a trick or treating and they fill up their bags. Is that what I'm imagining?
No, that's our team. So
right.
we build the pack. When you go to the packet pickup on Tuesday or Thursday or Friday, it's already done for you. You give a name and that's it. You're out the door.
Perfect.
Nice.
So it's already built. So it's got all the swag, which includes the T-shirt, the wristband, the neck gaiter, cinch bag, all the stuff from our partners that want to give like a coupon or something to their business, and then the bib with the safety pins. And then we have a store set up, so if you as you're going down, you get your bag, you can put some stuff in there if you want something from the store, any other swag.
Cool.
But it's all systematized, if that's a word. I don't know.
It is now.
Yes.
Cool.
It's been invented.
So it's all done, and we want to make sure that because I go back to when I was did some other type of events, the square shirt, the 100% cotton. I'm going to clean my truck with it probably, but I'm not going to wear it. And I saw how disorganized all the T-shirts were folded over on the chairs. Yeah. So I didn't want that because what does it boil down to? It's an experience. People come back to Ruck N Run because of experience. They're like, I have never done anything like this, and there is no other event like it. I mean, there's events that try to copy. There and I will right now tell you that when I started this, I was trying to get it covered through insurance, right? And I might be speaking to some of your listeners. Yeah. So they're like, is it like Sparta where you have obstacles? Like, no obstacles. It's just, body weight squats. There's no obstacles. Right. Like, oh yeah, we can't cover you. So now.
But why is that though? If you're just doing it with body weight, like you're just doing push-ups, It's weird because they say, well, if you're leaving the road to do an exercise, then we're going to consider it an obstacle. We can't cover you unless you do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, it doesn't matter. So you just stay on the trail though, right?
Right. So you have to exit the street because of, anyway, because it's not a closed course. So even though the city of Republic, their police officers, they do a really good job coordinating everything. But we want you to leave the road to do the station, come back on. So with that, the first year was some estimates were like $3,000 for insurance. Like I ain't doing that.
Wow.
So and then as rucking became more popular and as these type of things become more popular, I'm seeing events say, let's just do a run, but let's have them do some push-ups on the side. And then they call it stations. I'm like, where do you think you got that from? You got it from Ruck N Run. It's not hard to figure that out.
So that's not flattering to you, I guess. They're stealing your ideas, I guess.
I'm going to put it this way, and then I'd like to move on. First, Ruck N Run is a nonprofit veteran organization, but it's a registered trademark under my name. So
there it is.
Second is you can every town, I'm going to make a blanket statement. Every town in America should have a Veterans Day celebration.
Yeah, I agree.
And I want that.
I agree.
But no other town is going to have Ruck N Run.
Right. I'm with you.
That's where I stand.
I'm with you. Now, do you?
So I respect communities getting together, honor veterans. I don't respect cut and paste.
Oh yeah. So well, that begs the question though. I mean, do you feel like with this idea that you have, and let's fast forward 7 to 10 years whenever you get out of the military, do you plan on having this in different locations other than just Republic? Or, I mean, this could be the home base, but is your vision to make this in different parts of the country?
Like a color run, get it over the place.
I mean,
right. You're right in the sense that I would love to have the finances to have our own timing company gear, but right now we contract that out, and Heartland does a really good job for us.
Oh, I see. Because you have to have official timers and things like that.
Right. This event it's no joke. This event, so it's timed, it's bibbed, everything. But I went through the registered trademark process because I knew that I'd have some static.
Yeah.
And my original goal is to go to, there's 4 basic training installations in the Army. And that would mean 1 event per quarter. And then we'd have the Ruck N Run event in Republic, which is the home of Ruck N Run. And that's what I always say. So then there would be 5 events. And me being full-time Army, I can't logistically do that.
No way, dude. No.
Yeah. So Fort Leonard Wood is one of those 4. And since it's an hour and a half away, we oftentimes have service members come from there, Whiteman Air Force Base. Yep. And yep.
Even better, man. I mean, I just kind of wanted to ask because it feels to me like this could be a much larger event that goes on more than once a year, right? For fundraising purposes. So maybe Memorial Day and stuff like that. Well, George, this has flown by, as I always say, because everything is so interesting that we are always trying to explore with people. You are a friend of the show now. You've always been a friend of mine, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Which means we'll have you back.
We're going to have you back.
Yeah.
Especially like right before. I mean, we like to do check-ins with people, especially when they have events coming up. Like say to 48, we have him come back. And
he'll come back and he'll start promoting this.
Yeah.
When do you think you'll be coming back to take a leave or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm coming back in June for Have a Blast in Republic. They want me to speak from the stage and share Ruck N Run.
Oh, very cool.
But in the meantime, I will encourage everyone listening to go to rucknrun.org, rucknrun.org/DFDC, Delta Fox, Delta Charlie. So that DFDC, that is, we're doing something that we had never done before. It's called Dollar for Dollar Challenge. And we have a anonymous donor that has pledged $50,000 of matching funds.
Whoa.
So if anybody wants to go in there, every dollar counts. If you do that, then up to $50,000 will be donated to Ruck N Run. That's
Holy smokes, man.
Jeez.
Okay, so let's do that again. rucknrun.org/DF, as in dog, Frank, dog, Charlie. I'm going to say dog.
That's good.
That is huge for you to be able to keep doing what you're doing for our veterans, and we thank you. My uncle was a veteran of Vietnam, and he finally succumbed to Agent Orange after quite a while. But so I've personally lost people, and I'd love to somehow get them on your list of people that have fallen and whatnot, because I know you have a portion of that as well for Ruck N Run, where you commemorate people that have lost their lives.
And that's what people can do. They can do it to honor the fallen or honor someone, a service member in their life or veteran in their life. And that's what you do it for.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
honoring
right.
those who served.
Yeah, and every one of them is probably the best people we've ever known because they had the cojones to do what they did in the first place. And I always told my uncle that because he was working on medevac pilot and things like that, and working on helicopters and stuff in Vietnam. So I mean, those dudes are hardcore. I know you're hardcore. That's why I love you, man. But you're so soft too, by the way. So I love what you're doing. You're doing it from your heart. You're doing it from the Ozarks, and that's why we started this show in the first place, and I happen to be able to say that every single time. And that's why I love what we do too here, because we love supporting what people do, especially what you're doing. Ruck N Run, everybody, is where you can find that. rucknrun.org, and definitely go with the /DFDC. If you can even give $10, it turns into 20. If you can give 5,000, turns into 10,000. So let's make sure that we take care of people that take care of us, because without people like George, we wouldn't be sitting right here in this room doing what we're doing freely. So we appreciate you, George, and we'll keep in touch with you. We'll have you back on this show to do some promotion. When you're in town in June, hit me up. We'll see if we can get you in here in the podcast room, and let's explore a little bit more about this Ruck N Run and George Fuller as a whole.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, everybody else, keep exploring the Ozarks. Thanks again for listening to Exploring the Ozarks. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our social media channels to help us keep exploring the stories of the Ozarks. If you're looking for more ways to support our show, we have sponsorships for businesses and Patreon for individual supporters. Check the links in the description for more details. Thanks for your support, and keep exploring the Ozarks.